Konnichiwa. Today, we're going to learn grammar points of Genki 1, Lesson 1. So if you want to refer to the Genki book textbook, you can look at page 41, 42, 43, and but also I'm going to show you these grammar points. There are 3 points, and I'm going to show you those points by using the slides. Also, I included some extra materials that I'm hoping that will be helpful to you. So let's get started. So let's talk about tenses. Tenses are time signatures, when something happened, or it happens every day, or it will happen. So English has 3 tenses: past, present, and future. Japanese, we only have 2 that are not finished. So this takes care of present, future, and present tense, and then future tense. So we also call this imperfective. It's just a fancy grammar word, but this just means not finished. So what's the second one? You can probably guess. It's perfective. It's finished. So it's already done. So that kind of the equivalent of the past tense in English. But we put these present and future tenses together. So it's just easier than dealing with 3 tenses. So in Japanese language, we only have 2 time signatures: finished and not finished. And we also have 2 types of sentences, which English language has as well. So one is affirmative, so yes sentence, like I'm your teacher, or the dog is very cute. So yes sentences. And the second one is negative sentences. So I'm not a student anymore, or this water doesn't taste good, something like that. So it has not in it. So those are negative sentences. And Japanese language has those 2 types: yes sentences and no sentences as well. So the conjugation, so the way sentences change, we call it conjugation. It means just changes. The chart would have 4 boxes. So one for not finished and finished, and the other would be affirmative and negative. And in addition to these little small pieces of knowledge in grammar, I want to talk to you about 3 types of sentences. First one is a noun sentence. So you actually know this because we already learned how to put nouns with this. So that's a noun sentence. You're just saying something is, it is something, or they are something, just more politely. So, for example, let me just go back about noun sentences. So we use the word pen, the same pen. So you can just say pen, but you can also present it's a pen in a polite way. So that will be pen desu. So that would be one of the example sentences of noun sentences. Second sentence type is verb sentences. Verbs are actions like I eat, or he drinks coffee, or these students take a bus to school. So take, eat, drink, these things are actions. So you can make sentences using these verbs. So these are verb sentences. And the third sentence type is adjective sentences. Adjectives are the words that you can explain nouns better. So a big dog, or white shoes. So these words like white or big, those are adjectives. And you can say, these shoes are new. That might be an example of adjective sentences. So you get to learn how to say those things. So in Japanese 1, you're going to learn all these three types: noun sentences, verb sentences, and adjective sentences. And actually, these are the only sentence types. So in Japanese 1, you already learned all the sentence types. And we're just, Japanese 2 and on. We're just going to have more explanations or longer, maybe we would add phrases. So, but these are the main structures of sentences. And one thing about the Japanese language, English has to have a subject, either I or they or students. We have to say what or who does something. But in Japanese, if you and I are talking and if both of us know what we're talking about, like a subject, so that would be a subject. You don't have to say it. So I could just say, Sakamaki desu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. When I first meet you, and I'm just saying it's Sakamaki. So what is it? In that context, you can tell I'm just presenting my name. So I do not have to say, my name is Sakamaki. I could just say, it's Sakamaki. And languages like that are called high context languages. So in opposition would be low context language like English. You have to say everything with words because you were not depending on the context. So in Japanese, we depend on the context. So if the contexts are clear to us, then you don't have to actually say them with words. So just something, to remember. Let's talk about nouns. So nouns have no gender. There's no female, male, neutral. Many Roman languages like Spanish, Italian, German, they have, different genders. We don't. The second unique thing about Japanese nouns are it's the same form for both singular and plural. So we say something essentially like one pen, two pen, three pen. One book, two book, three book. We just do not put any S's or anything like that at the end of a noun to indicate there are more than one. So that's easy, to learn. You just have to learn one noun form. So I've shown you this chart earlier. So there are two time signatures, and then there are two types of yes or no sentences. So noun sentences, if you want to say it's a something, like it's a pen, we already know right here. You can put a noun here, and then you can put des. This is kind of like it is or they are, but we do not have really a be verb. We just call this copula. Again, it's a fancy grammar word. But for now, if you can think that as you're presenting a noun in a polite way by saying des after a noun, then you're good. So you can say pen desu. It doesn't have to be a thing. If you want to say, oh, they are students, you can say 学生です. Or if you want to tell someone is a teacher, you can say, ah, 先生です. So that's where this comes in. And we will learn a negative form, like how to say it is not something, or it was something, or it wasn't something later on. But in lesson 1, we're going to learn how to say it is, or they are, or he is, which you will follow a noun with this. So noun sentences, imperfective, affirmative. So that was this box. So if you knew a noun, you can just add this and then make that into a polite sentence. For example, okay. So pen this. Then you were saying it is, maybe it is a pen. It could be they are pens. These are pens. We don't know since we do not have a plural form of different nouns, but that's okay. If you need to know, we will tell you. All right, so sakamaki desu. If I say that with a bow and then it was a first time, then most likely I'm telling you my last name. We usually exchange our names by last names, not the first names, unless you're small children. All right, so against a subject is not necessary because it's obvious that it's a first time meeting and it's a name. So this we learned from the previous video. This is te ten ten, so it's de and then su. So that this is how we write this, or it's gonna conjugate in lesson 2, but it comes after a noun, not before. After a noun, it makes a polite noun sentence. So hon is a book. So if you say hon desu, it's a book. They're books. All right. So it doesn't matter what we're talking about. This it just present a noun in a polite way. All right, so can you try to make a sentence imperfective affirmative? You're saying someone is a teacher. So how would you do that? 先生です. 先生です. You just say sensei, the teacher, and then after that, you can just add this. Very easy. And then that's a noun sentence. 2番, number 2. So if you want to say someone is a student, how would you say that? 学生です. 学生です. So student is 学生, as we learned in lesson 1, vocabulary. So you can just add this, makes it into a very polite sentence. So you can say that, 学生です, 先生です, to anyone you know, even if you just met that person. You are polite enough if you just say 先生です. If you just say 先生, maybe they might think you're not very polite. So I always try to be more polite than I probably need to be, just in case. I don't want people to think that I'm rude. So I would advise you to kind of think in the same way. Okay, and then if you're presenting a building or a system and you want to say it's a college, then you can say 大学です. 大学です. Or if you want to say someone, or maybe I am, number 1, then ichi is 1, and then ban is a suffix for number 1, number 2. So you are counting, kind of ranking something. So ichiban is number 1. So how would you present that with the politeness? 一番です. 一番です. It's a high school. So we just did, it's a college, so let's do a high school. 高校です。高校です。And maybe something is happening in the morning. Then you can say 午前です。午前です。Or maybe something is happening in the afternoon, like a class. 午後です。午後です。So if you knew a noun, and if you knew this will make that into a polite sentence, then you can make any noun sentences in imperfective and affirmative. And when somebody tells you, oh, someone is a teacher, you just acquired, you just learned something new, right? New information. And there's a very nice way to respond to a learning new information, which is, ah, そうですか. Ah is like our O. So this is it is so, as you know. This is so is a noun, as in so. It's just happened to be the same. And ka makes it makes the sentence into a question. So you're saying, oh, is that right? Is that so? It's not a real question, but it's more of a rhetorical question. When you learn something new, well, you would say that. Ah, そうですか. Ah, そうですか. So instead of just, maybe nod or smile, if you can say, ah, そうですか, after learning new things, new information, I think it'll close the conversation nicely and the other person know that you understood what the other person said. All right. So let's talk about particles. Particles are small words. There is really nothing equivalent in English. The closest thing would be prepositions such as of or in, at, but it's still the particles and prepositions behave differently. So you can think somewhat it's similar, but not quite. So these are small words that come after a noun or after a sentence, not before. So that's right away, you can tell it's different from prepositions. With prepositions, you would say before a noun. So like in the bag. But in Japanese, when you use particles, it's actually you say a noun first and a particle. So eventually you're going to have to stop comparing or associating Japanese language grammar to English. But whenever it's possible, I like to, tell you, oh, it's similar. It's just like English because it's, a little bit easier transition. All right. There are two types of particles. One is sentence particles. So that comes after a sentence. Like, remember the particle that will make a statement into a question? Ka. So that comes after sentence. So, そうです。そうですか. So you can't say it's not a phrase particle like the second one. So you can't say penka and expecting to say, is it a pen? You can say penka, but that's very, very blunt. It's almost rude. So, until you have really, really close friends or family members who speak Japanese, you really don't want to say that. You want to say, pen desu ka? Is it a pen? So, ka is one of the examples of sentence particles. And phrase particles come after a noun and add a function to those nouns. At this point, in the hiragana lesson video, I introduced a little bit about one phrase particle, which is no, when we talked about neko no shippo desu. It's a cat's tail. But so that was, very, very brief introduction of a phrase particle. But we'll talk about one phrase particle that is really common in a minute. So sentence particle, as we talked about, ka will come after a sentence and make a sentence into a question. So if you want to say, it's a pen, now you know, pen desu. And pen is a borrowed word from English. We did not have pens. We only had brushes. So this is actually written in katakana, which we will talk about in another video, how to read and write katakana. But this is pe, and then this is This looks like hiragana too. It's very pen, he of hiragana and katakana is really identical. But this part is as in katakana. But anyway, so if you want to say it's a pen, pen desu. How about if I want to ask you if something is a pen? So I would just show you something ridiculous. Okay, so if I'm not sure if this is a pen or what, then I can ask, pen desu ka? Pen desu ka? Right? So pen desu, then I'm sure I am saying it's a pen. But if I'm not sure, then you can add ka after a sentence or statement and make that into a question. And so if someone asks you a noun question, how would you respond? If it's yes, then you can say, Hai, pen desu. Right? You can just repeat, yes, it is pen, or it is a pen, but we don't need any articles. We don't use a, on, or that unless we need to say that. So you're essentially saying, yes, it's pen. I know it's a little strange, but in Japanese, that's quite normal. So you can say, Hai, pen desu. Or you can say, yes, that's so. Yes, it is. Yes, they are. Hai, so desu. Hai, so desu. For example, 学生ですか?学生ですか? What am I asking? I'm asking if you're a student. You could say, like number one, はい、学生です. Or you can say, はい、そうです. Then you're just affirming what my assumption about you being 学生 is correct. Another way to respond a noun question would be use a negative. No, I'm wrong. So if you're not a student, but if you're a teacher, you can say いいえ, which is no. いいえ、先生です. いいえ、先生です. Or very affirmatively, if you want to say, no, you're wrong, or no, your assumption is different. いいえ、違います。違います。いいえ、違います。先生です。Then you can give me the correct answer if you want. So 違います is actually a verb, even though it means different or wrong. In the Japanese language, 違います is an action, and it means to be or to do something different or to do something incorrectly, so wrong. And in the Japanese culture, we expect everybody to be the same, to think alike, to behave very similarly. So as you can see in this word, being different is being wrong. So if you're different, that's not unique. Or it is unique, but it's sometimes looked upon negatively. So, it's very nice to see everybody behave in the same way or follow rules, or, all the students dress the same way. It's kind of, there's something soothing about that. But also, if you have a different thing in your mind, then it's very difficult to be different. So example, 先生ですか? So I'm asking someone is a teacher. 先生ですか? And you can firmly tell me I'm wrong. いいえ、違います。学生です。いいえ、違います。学生です。So if somebody told me that I was wrong and it's something else, I would respond to this. ああ、すみませんでした。Or ああ、すみません。So I would apologize for assuming or assuming incorrectly. All right. So can you make imperfective affirmative questions using these words like Japanese language? So Japanese language was Nihongo. So let's ask maybe this book, but you don't have to say it because it's obvious, is in the Japanese language. So how would you do that? Nihongo desu ka? Right? Nihongo desu. Then you're saying it's a Japanese language, but I want to make that into a question. So Nihongo desu ka? Is it the Japanese language? Maybe this book is written in. Okay. 日本語ですか? And number two, 2番. Is it me? Maybe, are you talking to me? Or are you asking about me? And again, we point our nose. So how would you ask a question? 私ですか? 私ですか? Number three, I want to know if these people are your friends. 友達ですか? 友達ですか? I want to know maybe the class is at 1 o'clock. 1時ですか? 1時ですか? And for the most of the time, that ですか has the same intonation, ups and downs. Da da da, ですか? Because it is a question, so we go up a little bit. Whereas です is going down. 1時です. It's 1 o'clock. 1時ですか? ですか? ですか? The ka part goes up, or you can say it more that loudly, then I think you'll come out. Your Japanese sounds fine. Or is it now? Maybe the class is now. 今ですか? 今ですか? I want to know if maybe this country is the US. So the US is アメリカ. So the question would be アメリカですか? アメリカですか? And America is a foreign word, so we would typically write that in katakana, but we don't know katakana yet, so I just wrote that in hiragana, but we would not use hiragana. Okay, let's talk about particles. So particles indicate the function of the preceding word or phrase. So sensei desu ka? Then this ka affects the parts that's before, not after. Okay, not after. So before. So sensei desu, it's a teacher. Sensei desu ka? Maybe are they teachers? And ka was a sentence particle because it comes after a statement. So now I want to introduce one phrase particle, which is wa. So phrase particle comes after a noun. So that's what this little wavy thing. So there's a noun and then wa. So if I do that, what would happen? Wa, and then remember in the hiragana lesson video, I talked about a special rule. If it's a particle wa, then we write that with ha, but we read it as wa. A little bit complicated. But wa indicates that the preceding word, so this word that comes before wa is the topic of the sentence. So, for example, 先生は日本人です。So, I want to talk about the teacher and then something about the teacher. So, as for the teacher, he or she is a Japanese person. 先生は日本人です。So, I want to talk about this teacher, not about someone else. And that person is a Japanese person. 先生は日本人です。So, 先生 is a topic, not always a subject. In this case, it is a subject, but it's a topic of the sentence. And the phrase part before what may not be a subject. For example, I could say something like this. 日本語はわかります。日本語はわかります。So, わかります means I understand. It's a verb. We don't know that yet, but I wanted to use this because it really demonstrates not the noun followed by wa is always a subject. So, 日本語, as you know, it's a Japanese language. So, this sentence says, as for Japanese language, I understand. So, who is the subject? It's me. I understand it. But I want to talk about the Japanese language, not English, not Korean language, but Japanese. So this is how I would present that topic. 日本語はわかります。日本語はわかります。So it presents a topic. So let's use what in a question. So if somebody says, お名前は going up, so it's a question. And as you know, 名前 is a name, but remember about sushi became osushi, as in sushi, but I want to be polite to you, so I would put o before a noun. Namae is the same situation. So name, but it's your name. I want to know your name, so I want to respect you, so I put o before namae. Not every noun does that, but many nouns you can put o. So, お名前は? So first person asks or present the topic that A wants to talk about. お名前は? As for your name, and the person B says, 坂巻です. It's Sakamaki. So it's a new information. ああ、そうですか. Maybe. And then ありがとうございます. どうぞよろしくお願いします. Please be nice to me. Something like that. So notice that the first speaker, A, starts a sentence, right? And the second speaker finishes it. So, お名前は坂巻です. That's a complete sentence. But it took two of us to finish. And we like that because that means we're on the same page. And we, if we do that, we're big on teamwork. We're being collective. So we prefer that kind of communication. Whereas here, you wouldn't always like to be told what to say or how, what to talk about. So it's just a little bit different communication style. So other examples of what being a question. 電話番号は? 電話番号は? So 番号 is a number, the word number, noun. And 電話 is a phone. So phone number is 電話番号. And I know my phone number, so it's gotta be yours if I'm asking. So your phone number is, and then you can say this. But when we say, when you have a hyphen in between numbers, you just pause in English. We tend to say no. So it's like a 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3. So we put no here. So 1, 2, 3 の1122です. So A started a sentence and B finished it by providing B's phone number. Or maybe it's someone else's. We don't know. But these people obviously know whose number they're talking about because they're not saying whose number they're talking about. All right. And again, I will introduce numbers a little bit more in details in another lecture. But this is another reason or another example of what presenting a topic can be used in a question. And of course, it's a new information. So, そうですか. So, if you do not, this is a very polite, sophisticated way of asking questions. But if you want to know if you want to say the whole thing, what is your phone number? Then you can say, do you remember how to say, what is it? 何ですか? Right? So you can say, 電話番号は何ですか? 電話番号は何ですか? That's fine when there's no context and I have to say, I want to know what your phone number is, then, the answer is the same. But that's an option. But if you're an adult, we try to say less. And if we can communicate with fewer words, that your communication is better, smoother, and we understand each other better. So we prefer doing that. Other examples, 大学は? So meaning the college you go to, and you can say, BC です. It's BC. So remember when we learned hiragana, I said there is no sound as C. So we only have shi. So this letter, the alphabet, we know it's C, but when we pronounce it, we say shi. So BC です. So if you say BC, they may not catch it. They may, but definitely if you're speaking in Japanese language, then we would pronounce this as she. Okay. For example, another one. お父さんは? So your father. So this O is again polite O. So your father. Maybe, and in this, I don't know the context. Maybe I'm asking your dad's profession or where he's from or where he is now. So there could be a number of responses. But let's say we're talking about where he is. Then, the answer might be 日本です。お父さんは日本です。This doesn't mean your father is Japan. More likely he is in Japan. But, it's obvious between these two people. So it's very minimal, very short sentences. Or maybe お父さんは and A wants to know what he does for a living. 英語の先生です. So again, so no kind of explains what this the sensei is a bigger idea, and then there are different teachers, English teacher, math teacher. So and then the word before no explains the following noun. So I will explain that to you more in just a bit. So particle no, as we just saw, 英語の先生です. So if you see this word and then no after that, then no, first of all, connect two nouns, not an adjective, not actions. It's just two nouns, like 英語, English language, 先生, teacher, right? And the first noun, so before no, explains something about the latter noun, which in that case, sensei. But I'll show you another example. 先生の電話番号. So there's no here. So this is the first word. So sensei is an explanation of 電話番号. So it's a phone number, but whose phone number? Oh, it's teacher's phone number. So in a way, you can think this no as of the phone number of a teacher, or you can think this no as apostrophe s. It's like it's showing who something belongs to. It talks about possession, teacher's phone number. So you can think in either way. All right. So this no restrict this 電話番号. It's not anybody's, but it's teachers. So that's what no does. And that's a 電話番号 is a main idea. All right, so can you make phrases with no? So my teacher. So you need my as in first person. Watashi. And then the bigger idea is teacher, which is sensei. So which comes first? So the bigger idea comes later. So it's going to go, watashi no sensei desu. So, oh, that's my teacher. So, watashi no sensei desu. So the sensei, there are many sensei, but we're trying to say, well, it's my teacher. Or teacher's phone number. So the bigger idea is a phone number, and it's not anybody's, but it's teacher's. 先生の電話番号です. Maybe you're pointing a series of numbers and you're saying, oh, that's teacher's phone number. 先生の電話番号です. Or a friend's name. So there are many names, but not any names, but it's my friends. 友達の名前です. So if you want to particularly say it's my friend's name, then what do you think we could do? So we can explain friends, right? It's not your friends, his friends, but my friends. So you could say, oh, use this. 私の友達の名前です. So that's possible. You can just keep going with no and keep explaining the following nouns. And in Japanese, that's quite natural. I think if you do this too much in English, it gets a very clumsy, long phrase, and then we don't like that. But Japanese, it's quite normal. So how about this one? College in the US. So the bigger idea is college, right? And college can be in the US and Japan, England. So we're going to restrict this with this restriction. This main idea, restriction. And the US is America. So it's going to be アメリカの大学. So it's not any university, but it's in the US. For students in China, so there are many students, but let's just give more details about students. So that would be 中国の学生. 中国の学生. Or my teacher's name. So we're going to need two notes because this my explains the teacher and my teacher explains the name. So what do you think? What was my? Watashi no. What was teacher? Sensei. And then in between sensei and the name, which is namae, you need no. So it's going to look like this. 私の先生の名前です. Maybe there's a name on the board and you know who that is. 私の先生の名前です. All right, and these, okay, make these into, okay, well, we just did. By adding this, you're making noun sentences. 大学、学生、 namae. These are all nouns. Okay, so now it's a longer sentence. So the topic is my teacher. So how would you say my teacher? Watashi no sensei. And that's a topic, right? That's a topic what I want to talk about. So how would you indicate the topic? You follow the noun with wa. So, 私の先生は, and then how would you say Miss, Mr? Oh, you put san after this. 私の先生は坂巻さんです. So, 坂巻さんです. That's a noun sentence. That's the main frame, main structure. But then you want to tell me who you want to talk about. Oh, you want to talk about my teacher. So indicate that with wa. So this is how you can make a long sentence like this using different particles like no, wa, and then copula, des, making a noun into a sentence. All right. Wow. So Mr. Sato-san, we need to know because you have to explain phone number. Sato-san no, what was phone number? 電話番号. And that's a topic. So how would you indicate your topic? Wa, right? And then, these are kind of easy. And then make sure you say no, because then 4, 5, 6, 7, that's the main idea. And then you are restricting that with 1, 2, 3. That's why we say no here. So how would you make a sentence or translate this? Give you a few seconds. So Sato-san will be Sato-san no, right here. Sato-san no 電話番号は123の4567です。That's a sentence. Right. You can say she or shi, but she and shi, when we say a bunch of numbers, they sound like ichi and shi and shi. So we tend to say yon or nana. That's a little easier to understand. But you can say 4567です。4567です is probably a little more listener friendly. All right, so that's what this looks like. 佐藤さんの電話番号は123の4567です。Okay, another sentence. So I'll give you a few seconds. Try to put everything together. I'll give you a hint. So we have to explain friends, 友達, with whose. It's not 私の. Now it's 田中さんの友達. And that's a topic. So we have to follow that phrase with wa. And then how would you say British person? England was イギリス. And the suffix for people is 人. So イギリス人. イギリス人. And then you have to make this into a polite noun sentence. So it's going to look like this. 田中さんの友達はイギリス人です。or イギリスの方です。Kata is a very polite way to say a person or people, and you're explaining this person with the country name and a no, because these both are nouns. イギリスの方です。 Igirisu jin desu is not rude, but it's very neutral. It's very dry. Whereas Igiris no kata, you're definitely seeing that as a person, another person, and being very polite. So if I ever want to ask another Japanese person if that person is Japanese, I will not ask, 日本人ですか? Because then I sound like I do not respect that person. So I would say, すみません. I'm sorry. すみません. 日本の方ですか? So if I ask them, 日本の方ですか? Then right away they know I am also Japanese because I'm using that cultural knowledge, right? Seeing someone as a person, then I would be polite by saying kata. So if you can, I would urge you to use 何々 this イギリスの方、アメリカの方、日本の方. Then because the other person, especially if that person is a Japanese person, then that person know that you know our culture, right? So they would appreciate, you so much more as well. I mean, people appreciate you speaking any Japanese at all, but if you can do that, they would be impressed. They're gonna think, oh, this person must have a great teacher. All right, so BC is college in the US. So this is the topic. So BC what? And how would you say college in the US? College is the main idea. So you're gonna have to say US first or US before saying college. BC はアメリカの大学です。So again, we do not use a or an or the. So I didn't write it because I didn't want you to think, well, I don't know how to say a or the because we just don't use that unless we need to. We need to say, okay, to one or two or more. All right. So after this, the slides, I would like you to look at these slides and then practice, make questions and answer them in Japanese. We can do the first one. So I want you to ask if this person is a student. How would you do that? 学生ですか? 学生ですか? Right? And he looks like a student, and he is, let's just say. And you can say, はい、そうです。はい、学生です. And if I want to know that person's name, how would you do that? I will just present the word name with the particle. お名前は? お名前は? If I'm asking him, he can say, マイクです。マイクです. Or if I'm asking you and you know his name and you can say, Mike san desu. Mike san desu. So these are, this is just an extra question, but the main practice I would like you to try is to ask if someone or something is this. So I want you to ask, what is it? So the phrase or the question is, 何ですか? 何ですか? And you may have not seen this, but it's 電話. It's a phone. 電話です. 電話です. And so forth. So I would like you to try questions. I'll just show you quickly what other slides look like. So like this. So I want you to ask this question. Or what number would be 何番ですか? Ooh, so you can just say these numbers. Or where is he? Meaning, we're just gonna say, where is it? So, どこですか? as in, and then he is from Russia because he's speaking in Russian. But I need to show you another slide stack that will introduce country. So, I would do that in a couple days. So if you want to wait on, answering this one, you can skip that. Actually, this too. All right. So yeah, for a few slides, please wait. But this one you can ask, and she's actually not a teacher. She's not a student, but she's a high school Japanese language teacher. All right, you can do this. But when I record this next time, I will put the answers and we can practice. So these are the slides and lesson 1 grammar points. There were 3 points. Make sure to review the slides as well as the book pages 41 to 43. If you have any questions, you can ask me by email or come to my Zoom office hours and ask me questions. And I'm going to assign you practice 1A on page 44. I would write more about that and on my lectures and assignment notes. But I hope you will start going over these slides and start making noun sentences yourselves. All right. お疲れ様でした。